Yes, I think this would be the first step just to get there, wouldn't it?
And miracles too. Miracles are performed by Jesus. They're performed by the grace of God, because it's clear that a saint has special merits. And so with these merits, they might manage to obtain them. A bit like the Madonna did at the wedding at Cana, when she forced her son to perform a miracle even though
It wasn't yet time for Jesus to do it.
Exactly. But let's say we have to see how grace actually works. These are intimate things, but sometimes through dreams, sometimes he truly appears, sometimes through inner things, incomprehensible mechanisms, because I can't describe them, but the Lord touches hearts, maybe moves them. These things are the work of grace. They can't be quantified, nor can they be rationalized on a scientific level, because they are mysterious things. On the other hand, the soul is a mysterious thing for us. And so anyway, seeing so many young people following him, so many people who come, so many prayer groups, then he has a reputation for holiness. Anyway, his fame is known throughout the whole world. We have people from Asian countries, Malaysia, the Philippines, Vietnam, India, South America, the United States, Europe, Australia. We have so many So clearly, only grace can do that. It can work this out, because it's humanly impossible to manage to make a candidate like this known. Even if I put in all the possible and imaginable effort, I wouldn't succeed in the goal. Then anyway, the point is still touching hearts. Only God can do that. This is to say that...
But has Carlo ever come to meet you or anyone in your family after his death?
Well, yes, he's given me several signs. I must say he's given many. He also told me some things, important ones. Surely Carlo cares a lot about catechesis. He cares that children, first of all, the most important thing from what he made me understand, sense, that the most important thing the Lord cares about are the youth, the children, because they are the future of humanity. And often billions are spent to do 3,000 things, but then for children very little is done. And so what I sensed is that Carlo cares very much about really helping these young people, these children, and this catechesis that can bring the light of God in an effective, efficient, and effective way.
I know that you found a form of catechesis that goes straight to children, which is animated cartoons.
Yes, then we also have some projects in store with the Dominicans of Bologna to create an actual online site to be able to, let's say, provide free material useful to parents, catechists, educators, religion teachers, but for free, which will then be translated with audio support as well, cartoons and videos. There, we're already starting. And now one of these that Carlo cared about very much is the apparition of Fatima, because there isn't a complete and truthful cartoon about Fatima regarding what the real messages of Our Lady were. Because, if a cartoon, I think there's a small thing, but not the dialogues are changed. The exact words of Our Lady are not reported. And this, for example, is a cartoon that Carlo really wanted to be made. So in a way, I made it for him as a birthday present. A gift from his mom. And instead we give each other gifts.
How wonderful. Because are you still in contact with your son?
Well, let's say it's not that I'm in contact, but I lived with Carlo. I know what he likes, and as I've told you many times, Carlo has made himself heard by us too,
That's lovely.
So it's not just...
This is one of the projects you carry forward, making cartoons, and then there's an exhibition of Eucharistic miracles.
No, the exhibition of Eucharistic miracles was made by Carlo, and we have become, let's say, guarantors that to be able to, let's say, continue to have it travel all over the world as it's doing. Why did Carlo make this exhibition on Eucharistic miracles? Because he had the opportunity around 11 years old. He started being an assistant catechist and then became a catechist. Sometimes he even acted as the catechist, and he realized the lack of faith there was in the sacrament of the Eucharist, in the sacraments. And so he devised this exhibition on Eucharistic miracles because he said that people are like asleep in their conscience, right? So they go to Mass a bit out of ritual, right? But they don't really realize that Jesus is truly present there, right? Like in the times we said of the apostles, but in flesh and blood. Because if it were so, Carlos said, the churches would be so full that you wouldn't be able to get in, right? Because this is the reality. Jesus promised, and says, I will be with you until the end of the world. And he makes the promise. He keeps it through the sacraments. Except that for the sacraments, Carlo said, they make kilometer-long lines to attend a football match or go to a rock concert or when you have to line up because the latest iPhone comes out and then they don't do They don't do Eucharistic adoration. The churches are empty. So it means there's some problem in the perception of the immense gift. So he wanted people to understand and made this exhibition where the Lord, over the centuries, has always worked graces, miracles, where the host maybe transforms into flesh, the wine into blood. Or there are miracles that through, when there's the procession of the Blessed Sacrament, many miracles at Lourdes happened during the procession of the Blessed Sacrament, where people really came back. That is, they really had a miracle of healing and then also of conversion. Because anyway, and many with the Blessed Sacrament, that is during the torchlight procession when they do and so to say, then for example, many miracles can be those where the hosts are preserved, like the one in Siena, the one in San Mauro la Bruca, then there are also some in Spain. Then there are miracles involving people who lived, for example, solely by feeding on the Eucharist, like the servant of God, Martha Robin.
The body of Carlo Acutis was exhumed on January 23rd, 2019.
Yes.
And what exactly was the feeling that you experienced at that particular moment?
Well, look, I honestly, it felt like seeing him again, just as when he died. To me, it was the same, in the sense that I then saw that I could see him only a little, the skin clearly a bit more, but I saw there was the hair, the hands, the nails, everything just as when he died, perfect.
How many years since his death?
To me, well, all in all, I mean, that moment remained. Then I don't know now what these things depend on, but let's just say that
you saw him again as he was.
I saw him as he was and as I expected, because in fact he remained very vividly impressed in me. Because when he died in Milan, since in Milan there's the custom that they give permission to keep the deceased at home for a few days before the funeral. So they brought him home, and so we had Carlo there for a few days, because say he died on Wednesday, they held the funeral on Saturday. And so we were able to see him well. Then there were many people who came to say goodbye to him. So I really remember this vividly impressed. And that's how I saw him again.
After all, only 13 years since his death, right? 2006, 2019, so approximately 13 years.
Yes. Still quite a bit of time.
Quite a bit of time. Now, one thing for those following us, maybe tuning in right now to Maria Vision, Carlo Acutis, a young man who died very young from this fulminant leukemia, but his heart and soul were always projected upwards. An objection a young person listening to us might make could be, yes, because he was chosen by God because he sought Our Lady and sought the Eucharist daily. And yet, as we said at the start of the broadcast, without having a tangible example either in his family or around him. How do you respond to this objection?
It's an objection that doesn't make much sense, because if we think of Eve, right? Eve was without original sin and yet she sinned. Right? Our Lady was without original sin, but Our Lady chose to follow God, to obey, to be the faithful servant. There. So even Our Lady had the possibility to sin, right? She could have said no. Even the angels had this trial. And so everyone has the possibility to say yes to God. The problem is that often young people also live in families that don't transmit the faith at all. But let's say that the Lord always knocks for everyone. It's not that the Lord doesn't knock, the Lord knocks for anyone. Sooner or later there's a call, either sooner or later. And so Carlo clearly had a very short life, so the call came earlier. But many are perhaps called at 20, 30 or 40. It's not certain when that moment will come. But for everyone, the moment comes. Then people...
In conversion, a fundamental thing is willpower, both to say this yes and then to keep it. And I believe that Carlo has truly set a great example.
Let's say that the virtues we mentioned, the reason why the Church declares someone a saint, lived heroically, are stable attitudes of the will towards the good. That is, if I get used to doing good virtuous acts, naturally then I will be more and more inclined to do even greater acts of goodness. It's clear that if my will instead bends towards vices, then in the end this will also becomes clouded, because it then weakens. Then it's like when Jesus says, to whoever has, more will be given, and from whoever has not, even what he has will be taken away. Because the more we immerse ourselves in sin, the more our will struggles. Because truly, like for example, those who are slaves to drugs or slaves to pornographic films, because today a major plague for young people is pornography, which are the two great evils of these young people, unfortunately, who don't even have defense from adults because they are in the grip, at the mercy of
Yes, they don't have the awareness that it's a great evil.
If from when they are small they haven't gotten used to it and the family hasn't raised them to these virtuous acts of will to train this will, and then they are prey, because clearly the devil has more the inspiration of evil. The devil, our very nature, which in any case was wounded by original sin, which always inclines us towards evil anyway. We must fight this struggle to resist, because otherwise we would be perfect after baptism. But since we always have this inclination, because sin always leaves a trace, and that's where our merit will be to earn eternal life or not, that is paradise, in resisting these temptations. It's clear that young people, unfortunately, often families that don't transmit. Now, I sometimes happen to teach catechism to children, maybe friends of my children. They don't even know how to make the sign of the cross. And then we say, but who is it? In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And I asked them, but who are they? Well, one little girl answered me, the devil. That is to say. No, but to say that there is such ignorance sometimes that unfortunately, and this is also a bit the fault of adults, right? But you know, the sins of the fathers will fall on the children for 7 generations. So unfortunately, a family can, clearly sometimes the Lord then calls you back, and then it's up to us to give this yes, to accept these calls. Conversion is a very difficult process. Carlo used to say, not me but God, not self-love but the glory of God, sadness, the gaze turned toward oneself, happiness, the gaze turned towards God, right? Let's say that the greatest battle, Carlo said, is to conquer ourselves and our corrupt passions. In fact, he'd say, what's the use of winning 1,000 battles if you can't then conquer yourself? The great battle in the end is with ourselves, you know. Why? Because it's about less of me to leave room for God, as Carlo used to say. I mean, it's all there, putting God in first place in our lives. It's clear that the Lord calls us back with apparitions, with Eucharistic miracles, with many signs, figures of saints, good preachers. But naturally, then the great battle is within ourselves and with ourselves, right? And then when we meet, when we're born, we're alone. When we die, we're alone. I mean, in the end...
Mrs. Acutis, any other projects besides the animated short film we talked about?
Yes, well, there are many. My idea would be to talk about all these apparitions recognized by the Church, like Boraing, Banneux, Boham, Pont-Main, La Salette, Lourdes, of course, and make these cartoons, these documentaries too, because it would be interesting to show the beauty. We have shrines where the Virgin Mary even helped a woman in labor give birth. I mean, incredible things. We have some amazing shrines. Maybe many don't know them, you see. Then there are these exhibitions that Carlo created and are taken around the world. And naturally, I think that's already a pretty big project. Then, because it takes resources, it takes a lot of hard work too. Because even doing these things takes a lot. Making a cartoon is a very difficult thing. It seems like a trifle, but the hundreds the designers needed and the set designer and all that, it's incredible. I mean, it seems like a ridiculous thing, but it's really...
We understand because television is the same. It seems simple, but then...
But since nowadays young people don't want to spend hours reading because the generation has really changed. This is the tweet generation, so you can't just have kids reading a book, a tome. So making things that help them discover faith, you see, because there's a need to revive faith in people, revive faith in the youth, revive faith in people, to make them understand the beauty and the gifts the Lord has given us. Because even though we agree that with public revelation, I mean with the Gospels, it ends there and then everything is contained there. But the Lord wanted in His mercy and goodness to give us many figures of saints, many apparitions, many things to keep this faith alive, which otherwise there are places that haven't been recognized yet. I'm thinking of places like, for example, in Bosnia, and then there are recognized places. Then we naturally entrust ourselves to our Mother Church, who is always a teacher. She will tell us whether they are, let's say, reliable places or not. But anyway, there are many that have already been in the past, in the 1600s. For example, think of Laos in France, which has been recognized internationally. For 54 years, Our Lady spoke to the Venerable Benoît Roncourel. She really catechized her, she scolded her, because the girl was sometimes a bit messy, because she was too attached to her goat. I mean, it was really a daily catechesis on how she should behave. But there, miracles and conversions took place. This girl dedicated her whole life without marrying and had the gift of discernment of spirits. She really read. She helped people to convert. So many people came from all over France, even from across the Alps. Now, these apparitions, for example, almost no one knows about them, and yet they are extraordinary things. They are places where there are sanctuaries, places of grace, of prayer. And so we must make known the good that exists. Let's think of Guadalupe, the extraordinary thing about Guadalupe. But do you know how many people there are who don't know the tilma of Guadalupe? And yet it is an extraordinary thing. And so why? Why do I talk about these things? Because today we often talk too much about sociology, psychology, about things that naturally don't make people convert. Even beautiful speeches, for goodness sake, but they are things that people need science. They need simple things, you see. Like Padre Pio was. Padre Pio was bread is bread, wine is wine. I have my aunt who was a spiritual daughter of Padre Pio. Padre Pio was someone very simple, very essential.
Blunt.
But people need this. So at this moment there is a need to revive the faith, because unfortunately this light is being lost a bit, because families are no longer beacons for transmitting the faith. Many parents themselves have often lost their faith. In turn, these poor children don't manage, poor things.
Right, yes. It seems to me a very important message to give to all of you who are following us from Assisi with Mrs. Antonia Acutis, mother of the Venerable Carlo Acutis. And this is the news that I want to give you. April 7th, 2019. The body of Carlo Acutis is moved to the sanctuary of the Renunciation in Assisi, a sanctuary less known, probably compared to the Basilica of St. Francis, compared to the Basilica of St. Clare, the same cathedral of San Rufino, but a sanctuary today because several miracles have already occurred there concerning discernment, therefore the important choices of our lives. Because it's the place where St. Francis chose, the place where in the Bishop's Square he left his old clothes, the rich clothes of the noble family he belonged to give himself totally to God and change their lives. So I would like, ma'am, for you, since now the body of the Venerable Carlo Acutis will be moved to the sanctuary of the Renunciation, to also tell us why this place was chosen, what meaning it has.
Well, it is certainly one of the oldest churches in Assisi where Francis has been. And why this association with Carlo? First of all, Pope Francis really wanted it to become the sanctuary of the Renunciation, right? He's the one who signed the document. And a sanctuary dedicated to the youth, you see. So obviously the comparison of Carlo to Francis. Why? Because all young people are searching, right? Francis, in this sanctuary of the stripping, where there's this famous room where he stripped off all his clothes and gave himself into the hands of the bishop, begins his path of conversion, his path of faith. And since we're all on a journey and we all must start this journey, it's clear that one hopes to start this journey while young, not too old, because then, however, let's say that as long as there's life, there's hope for everyone. But certainly, what does the stripping mean? It means that not I, but God, as the bishop says, he likes this phrase of Carlo's very much, not self-love, but the glory of God, that is to remove, to give more and more space to God, to clothe oneself in Christ, which is the most difficult thing, which basically implies putting God first in life, that is responding to the first commandment, which is to love God above all things, right? But there's also a different discourse, that is to strip oneself means, and therefore not I, no, this great ego that we have, this self-love. To strip oneself also means to free oneself from all those, let's say, constraints that truly prevent us from following Jesus, because we're full of superstructures and above all humility, which then this virtue that Francis had, which was the humility of this very great humility, that is understanding that we're nothing and everything depends on God. And so let's say that managing to understand this means precisely to strip oneself. But who is it that more, let's say, than anyone can make us understand this? Surely Jesus in the Eucharist, because if we think that Jesus was born in a manger, and so this says the great humility of Jesus, but it's not this. The great humility, this of course is one aspect, but the great humility of God is that he went through that grueling tunnel that is the tunnel of the incarnation, passing from that situation, which is his infinite substance, which is the infinite, to a condition of the finite. And so this stripping that Jesus did in the incarnation is repeated every day, every minute, second, wherever a Holy Mass is celebrated. Every time a Mass is celebrated, this incarnation happens. That is, where God humbles himself In fact, St. Francis says it well. Every day he humbles himself, as from the royal seat he descends into the hands of the priest. And so at the school of the Eucharist, at the school of Christ, Francis became that saint that he was. Carlo, a small example, who followed naturally, not comparable to the greatness of Francis, but Carlo followed St. Francis, loved Francis above all for this Christological aspect and this infinite humility that he had. And all of us, through the Eucharist, and Carlo, who lived for this, for the Eucharist, who put the Eucharist at the center, who entrusted himself to the Eucharist to become a saint. Because anyway, the sacraments are the means, God's mercy, because Jesus dying on the cross, thanks to his death on the cross, the sacraments flowed forth, thanks to which we receive grace, life, divine life, which is our salvation. This is God's mercy. From this sacrifice on the cross, the means of our salvation have flowed forth. And so the Eucharist must become, since indeed Carlo is very well known also for this strong devotion he had for the Eucharist, it is a very effective means to, as Carlo used to say, not die as photocopies, but to always be originals. Exactly.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Antonia Acutis. I then remind all the viewers that through the cameras of Maria Vision, as you have heard, you will also be able to pray before the body of the Venerable Carlo Acutis, because it will be inside the sanctuary of the spoliation starting from the 7th of April of this year, 2019. So stay tuned with us. You are always in our prayers, and through this Venerable One, let us pray together so that all graces may be granted. I thank Mrs. Acutis once again and all of you who have followed us.